Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 207, recording on Sunday, September 22nd, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And this week we'll be talking a bit about the Unity keynote and the tech demo for, I already forgot its name, Time Ghost. The old Time Ghost is haunting us. And we'll get into our thoughts playing a bit of the Plucky Squire and maybe a few other games. Maybe Sean and I set sail and Sea of Thieves for a brief amount of time. Who knows?
Might have happened.
All right. How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
How good?
Tired.
I need a number out of 10.
I'm like an 8 out of 10. I mean, Huck had a pretty busy day, so.
Yeah, super busy. So I'm probably a 7. I feel good, but I feel my back is I also sealed the driveway 2 days ago, so my back is kind of in pain town, and it's probably gonna be worse tomorrow after being on the ice 3 times today. So yeah, we'll see how it is tomorrow.
Sean should feel very spry. We had a little multiplayer gaming party last night, and he went to bed at it's 1:30. I gotta go to bed.
That is very late.
We were supposed to play till 5 a.m.
Oh my goodness, you guys are hardcore.
Yeah, I could have pushed it if I really wanted to, but
that party was on Frank time. We host the posse up in Red Dead.
Yeah, that'll happen next time.
It better. Okay, let's get into the Unity keynote. I don't know a ton about this, so Huck, you might drive a little bit here. But yeah. I watched the Time Ghost tech demo, and I think they're trying to showcase Unity 6, which is a little late, I believe, as most Unity releases are. So,
yeah.
Let's go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's a couple weird things about it. Like, they're rebranding Unity again to be Unity 6 now, whereas like they had gone to the yearly release schedule and had all this other weird thing like LTS or whatever they called it, LTE, I can't remember, like long-term support or something like that, and short, I don't know, whatever else they called. They had like so many versions. It was so confusing. And then, nothing beats a good number version. It's very obvious which one you're getting. So they've gone back to that with Unity 6, and they showed off. I can't remember. I didn't really write down, but I did watch the Unity keynote, and they showed off kind of like 6 kind of like flagpole new things in this new Unity version, and this Time Ghost demo, which is not very long, but it's like 3 or 4 minutes long. The trailer was kind of their big showcase piece, and it kind of just shows a big landscape with a bunch of characters and some flowing grass and nice lighting and all the smoke and VFX stuff you would expect from any kind of like cutting edge AAA game. So it did look good, but I must say I still think Unity does not hold a candle to like Unreal Engine at this point in time. They showed, despite saying like you can animate multiple characters, like, okay, like that's not that many multiple, like what is that? And they showed like maybe 3 or 4 on screen at a time. That's not like a high number for games these days. And even when they were in the keynote, when they were kind of like scrubbing through the cinematic, you could tell they were doing tricks where like characters were disappearing. Like as they showed some characters running, and they showed the camera kind of panning around, and you could see characters just like disappear. So obviously in the final version, the camera wasn't looking at them in that time. So they just like completely took them away from like being in the world, having to tick and whatnot. So it was interesting. They did have some stuff. They're obviously totally coming back to focusing on game development. There was no talk of movies. There was no talk of TV. There was no talk of, look at all the cool architecture stuff you can do in this and whatever other crap they were talking about. They talked about mobile a bit. They talked about Google Cloud and some other things. I can't remember all the pillars, but I think they've seen the writing on the wall, and that game developers are their real customers. And They should not try to be the tool for everybody. I think they even mentioned that in the keynote or in something I read recently by the CEO. And I think the CEO kind of said in an interview that he's gone out of his way, not out of his way, but he's gone and talked to like hundreds of developers to try to figure out what they need and refocus Unity into being, a game development platform again, or engine, which is good. It's the way they should focus, but I don't know. It might be a little too late for Unity, to be honest. I guess we'll have to see.
The idea that they're going to focus on gaming, it is strange to me that this tech demo featured no gameplay. Like even Unreal 4, I think, was debuting, they had like a gameplay sequence, I'm pretty sure, and they usually feature more gameplay. So, I mean, to work on a tech demo like this probably actually took a lot of time and effort. So, I think this pivot is probably happening mid tech demo. So maybe the next one will have more gameplay stuff. But it looked decent. Apparently, at first I thought, well, this is just a cinematic, and then you said it's running in engine in real time and to scrub it. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive for Unity, I would say, but not necessarily impressive for Unreal the past couple of iterations. So, the hair looked really good. The guy's hair, little techgasm on the hair.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sean, how are you feeling about the? Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
It looks impressive. I guess the question I would put to you guys would be, like, is anybody, what's like the best looking Unity game out there today? Because I feel like, like they are trying to catch up a bit with Unreal and say, hey, we can do some of this high end stuff as well. Because it feels like the smaller indie developers are the ones who have kind of stuck with them still, but they're kind of pivoting back and saying, hey, if you were looking at Unreal for like a AAA game or a AA game, maybe take a look at us. But I'm thinking what is currently the best that you can see in Unity?
I have no idea.
It's a great question.
I can't think of one. I don't know if this is, maybe if I'm looking at a Reddit post, like maybe Escape from Tarkov and Sons of the Forest, but I don't think so. I'm not trusting this Reddit post right here.
I see Genshin.
Genshin Impact. I was just about to say that.
Okay,
so
yeah, that's a pretty big
maybe
one.
that one.
That doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look like photorealistic. Like most games are stylized. And the one weird kind of dilemma that Unity's in, from my perspective, is they tend to be an engine that's used by people who are learning how to make games and inexperienced developers and artists, because they don't need to necessarily, although Unreal's changing too because of like how the power of Blueprint and some other stuff in there, more so than in the past. But, a lot of the tech we see in that demo, I'm assuming, is supported by their data-oriented tech stack, DOTS, and the Entity Component System, ECS.
It is, yes.
In order to use that, you kind of have to rethink how you set up code. You have to structure it differently. It's a totally different style of game development, to the point where up until recently, Unity said only use it on a need-to basis. If you have a technical hurdle, that this is the only way around it, and there's not a lot of documentation on it and proven examples using it. So I don't know if someone who's or early indie game developers or people who are used to Unity, they'd have to rethink everything, which is possible, but there's going to be time constraints where they might just go to Unreal anyway. So that's definitely kind of the space they're in. People are not going to just jump to ECS DOTS right away, and the games don't actually look that much better for a while.
Especially if you're thinking of it like, okay, I want to prototype something and I don't really know what it's going to be, or, what's going to work well. You don't want to spend a lot of time making your game hard to change and use, just so it will run fast. And on the flip side, once you figure that out, then the cost to rewrite everything to use dots could be very prohibitive. So it's kind of a catch-22 where you might be stuck with never wanting to do it and never getting the performance you want.
Yeah, so I don't know. It might be a little too late to really shift the landscape, but there will always be, I think, an audience for Unity, especially for people learning about games and
mobile.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So I'm glad they're coming back to games a bit. Hopefully they deliver on some promises sooner than later, because that's my current thoughts on Unity. They keep saying they're going to do something and then abandon it, or it takes 2 years later than they said it was going to be. So they got to start delivering.
The disappointing thing for me is like when Unreal released Unreal Engine 5, the main version that just came out, they put out this demo called Lyra, however you want to say it, Lyra. And it's a fully functional multiplayer demo with all the bells and whistles that the new Unreal Engine offers. So you get to kind of walk through, okay, how do you do UI in this new system? How do you set up animations with the new fancy animation stuff? So you can actually see concrete examples of how to do everything. Whereas this is just like a cinematic trailer. Like you said, there's no complicated player controller or anything like that.
I do see there's something called the Mega City Metro demo, which is
been around.
That's old.
A long time. When they introduced DCS.
They say that there's the new multiplayer play mode is demoed in this for Unity 6 or something. Yeah. So there are some demos you can download and check out, but maybe that one's not quite as impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you also have like, I mean, also like Unreal, when they put out something, they usually have a game that comes out. Like Epic puts out a game, you know, they upgrade Fortnite to use the Unreal Engine 5, or they put out Gears of War or something like that. Like there is a product that is proven to be able to take full advantage of the engine. And Unity doesn't really have that. They rely on other people to do it. And it, you know, comes out 2 to 3 years later. So it's not really like a big selling feature.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they need to start making their own games.
I think so.
I'm surprised they haven't done that already. It's so weird to me that they have not attempted to make a game with their engine. Like, you should know it better than anyone. You should know what it's capable of. Hire some game designers and artists. Like they're huge. It doesn't even have to be a big game, or like you could scale it however you want. I cannot believe they've never done that. It's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into what we played, and let's start with the Plucky Squire. And let's, Huck, you played a little bit, so why don't we get your thoughts first?
Yeah, I only got to play about half an hour or so. So I didn't even get to the 3D parts. I think I'm in chapter 2 or something. I just got to the Tome Tower. So pretty early on. But I thought it was, I really like the art style. I really like how they tell the story with like the flip book. And I've heard some rumblings that people think it's like too kiddie, but I like the happy-go-lucky kind of like storytelling aspect of it. I find it kind of refreshing, and the gameplay is pretty straightforward so far. I find that refreshing. Like it's just an easy to pick up and play game. Obviously targeted at a younger audience, but still has like a little bit of economy, a little bit of choice of what you want to buy. And the combat seems pretty good so far in terms of, you know, just a very competent action game. So I haven't got really into anything too complicated more than that. I like, the puzzle mechanics I like with the switching the words. They have these like word puzzles with like either words missing or words you have to find in the environment by hitting things, which I find a pretty neat mechanic. It's not super unique, but it's like a nice twist on kind of a typical thing, almost like a Baba is You type mechanic. And Yeah, I found it pretty good, and the first couple puzzles I've come across are not overly challenging, but they definitely take a little thought to get through. So so far everything I've come across I'm enjoying. I appreciate the change of perspectives, even in 2D, where you'll do the kind of top-down Zelda style, and then you're doing like a side-scrolling Mario level, and then there's even that one like super punch-out mechanic you have at the beginning. So I appreciate how they're trying different things and little mini games and have little different changes of pace kind of so far, like throughout the whole thing. So I'm enjoying it, and I think it's quite fun for what it is. I don't need a super complicated game.
Plucky Dwyer, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking it. I've made it a bit farther. I like the gimmick and sort of the switching between 2D and 3D. There's an element of that game, that element of the game. It would be interesting if they hadn't kind of marketed it that way, and then you found out, oh, that's. But I mean, I guess there's other games that have done that already, sort of. But there is something about it that feels, it is a little bit simplistic. I don't know if it's going to get more complex. Like it just feels kind of linear and kind of holding your hand. Like, I'm on like chapter 5 or something like that, and it still is pretty like telling you what to do. And there is a character that if you get stuck, you can just talk to, and he kind of gives you hints. But that being said, the weird thing is that I was kind of thinking all the puzzle stuff and the word stuff that Huck was talking about was pretty straightforward and simple. And then I got completely stuck on one thing. And it was kind of because I guess I didn't do things in the right order. There was like a sentence that I never got. So I'm like sitting there like, what do I do? And I was just missing a word because that sentence had never popped up because I had never walked to the right spot on the screen to have that come up. And I was just stuck. So I had to look it up. But so I could see how maybe some of that stuff maybe could I mean, it makes it more challenging, not necessarily in a good way. But yeah, I like the presentation and stuff is great. It definitely reminds me a bit of that game RPG Time, The Legend of Right. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes.
It's kind of similar idea where there's like a game being played on like a kid's notebook and he's kind of doodling and stuff. So that reminded me of that. And actually some of the word stuff kind of reminded me a little bit of Scribblenauts a bit. But yeah, it's good. I guess there was a feeling that this was going to be like a 10 out of 10 game of the year type game. I don't know if it's quite there for me personally, but I wouldn't necessarily disagree if somebody else thought it was that.
I would probably disagree. I guess I don't like it quite as much as you guys. I like it is how I would phrase it. I like it. But I'm not necessarily blown away. Artistically, completely think it's fantastic. And the mini games like the Punch Out, have you done the arrow shooting, Sean? Where you charge it to shoot at bugs?
No, I did like a thing where you got to grab a fish.
Okay, yeah, no, the arrow shooting was a nice change up. Like it's good at kind of changing up gameplay when it's getting like a little bit repetitive. And I love all that stuff. And I think it has a really good sense of humor. My only issue is in terms of the simplicity. I'm okay with like it being a simple game, but I feel like it kind of cheats in making the game longer and harder. And the examples are like Sean said, and I've had other ones where sentences or portals in and out of the book only show up if you go in that area. And it kind of breaks this rule that, you should be able to see what's on the page when you open up those two pages, because some stuff you can see right away and some stuff you can't. I either want everything hidden or not, like it should be how it's going to be. And I think it arbitrarily makes that like a little longer, it just to increase the length of the game to me. That's all that's there for, to make you explore certain areas. And similarly, some of the word puzzles is just like you're moving slowly when you carry things. So you have to carry something across and then back. And there are these backtracking puzzles that are fine. They're not like, terrible or anything. The puzzles are fine, but where solutions and items are placed across the book also feels like it's more about padding the length of the game than, doing something interesting while you're solving the puzzle. My only other thing I'd say is I agree with Huck. The combat, I'm surprised how little combat there is in the game because I think it's pretty strong. Even the sword throwing mechanic, I really like, and the dodge and just regular melee combat is really snappy. And I think they should have more. If you're going to extend the game, have a little more combat in there or enemies that are a little more challenging. But again, maybe this is all under the, they want a younger audience to be able to play it. So they are limiting how challenging certain enemies are. Last thing I'll say, in terms of this is a positive, like the creativity of the art style. Maybe I won't spoil it because Sean, I don't think is there yet. You don't have the bow and arrow, right? Have you gotten it yet?
No.
Okay. So how you get the bow and arrow is really awesome. And it's mixing art styles where, there's the kind of base cartoon art style for the game, which looks amazing. And then the outer world, which looks good, but isn't quite as impressive. And then when you get the bow, it's 2D art, but a totally different style. And like thematically and in the real world, it works. It's such a cool idea that, I'm kind of definitely blown away by moments like that in the game, but I'm definitely going to beat the game. A lot of these hyped up indie games come out and I play them for an hour and I'm like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be, or they miss the mark. Usually an amazing art style where the gameplay misses the mark. But I think this one threads the needle pretty good. I'm like probably at a 7 right now, or 7.5, I think is a fair review for the game. But you never know. It could get better and improve. Like I just got to a level and the humor definitely picked up a bit. So I'm definitely enjoying it, just not as much as I thought I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment.
Have you guys looked up how long it is?
It's relatively short, I think, about 8 hours, I think.
Yeah, I think I saw 8 or 9, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm probably about halfway. We'll finish it before next week for sure, I would think. Okay. Any other thoughts on the Plucky Squire?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let's get into some other stuff we played. Sean, would you like to go?
Sure. I mean, are we going to dive into UFO 50?
Oh, that's not a good sign that I forgot.
One of your most anticipated games.
The game that impressed me the most during like our summer game season breakdown. And it came out this week, and my reaction should tell you how much I played it.
Well, it's not on PlayStation, so maybe that's part of it. But
might be a factor.
I have played all 50 games in UFO 50.
You played all 50?
Yeah, not very long. But
I gotta get the hero, like just Jay's standard hero drop. Not around.
We all know I'm a dabbler. This is a dabbler's game. So, that experience of going through each game and just kind of trying each one out and, not really understanding the controls in a lot of them and just kind of like, what the hell is this? Trying to figure it out was really fun. I like that aspect of it. I think that was one of their goals with this game, which, if you don't know, the idea is there's 50 sort of NES era 8-bit games. Each one is kind of like a full game, but there's 50 of them and they're all supposed to be created by this fictional developer called like UFO Soft or UFO Software. And I believe
Sean, sorry to interrupt, but is there nothing that gets into the Super Nintendo realm of graphics? Is it all NES?
See, I was confused about that. I thought there was, but the most recent, like if you put it in chronological order, I think the last one is 89. and it is still
Okay.
8-bit style graphics. So you do see a bit of a progression in terms of like the controls, and some of the later ones I think have like checkpoints and stuff, whereas the earlier ones really don't have that. But yeah, so the idea is that, there's these 50 games, you can basically play them all, and they're supposed to be their own standalone full experience. I don't know how long they are, probably 5-6 hours, potentially some of them, but they are very hard. They are very true to that era of game, which, Frank, we were talking on the weekend. I swear I heard, and you mentioned it as well, that they said there was going to be modern gameplay elements to, that they're retro style, but, made for a modern audience or something like that.
Yeah. With modern conveniences or something along those lines. But maybe it's just, I think I know what that might be referring to, but go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, I'm just not really seeing that. Like I said, there are some games that have some checkpoints, but a lot of them I would start it up, play for about 5 minutes, die, like instant death, like one hit kills, 3 lives, you're done, game over. And I was like, okay, next game. So like some of those, I don't know, like I can't see myself really going back to them much. Like they're just difficult. And
I think we're obviously not sure of the exact wording they used in the initial showcase, but I agree completely about it. Feels like you're playing old NES games, which even my favorite NES games can be a chore sometimes. And usually half of the fun is that it's nostalgia. So without the nostalgia, they're not necessarily all the fun, but I see this like walrus flying through the air here, and I'm like, that walrus looks pretty cool. I'd like to try that one.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, that experience of just going through the games, figuring them out, brings me back to like renting games from a video store, or, getting a Commodore 64 disc from a friend with a bunch of games on it, and you don't even know what the hell they are. So that was cool. That there's some nostalgia there. And then, there's no nostalgia for the games, but like obviously the style of games, a lot of them are inspired by specific games. Like there's one that's definitely like a River City Ransom type game. There's a couple of Metroid type games, Blaster Master. There's like a wizardry game. There's another one that's kind of like Shadowgate. So you could definitely.
While you're talking about that, the modernization idea, I think what we might be misinterpreting there is, I think they might be referring more to genres that didn't necessarily exist. And so the first game you play is clearly borrowing from Dark Souls and imagining a Dark Souls or Souls-like experience on the NES, which I know like Rogue, the original roguelike is an old game, but I think the idea is like, even the second game is an a turn-based strategy game that is a little closer to like something like Advance Wars, or I don't remember many games like that on the NES. So I think it's, what voids can we fill in the NES era that hadn't really been fleshed out, or, the genres hadn't been established that much yet. So if we look back at the NES era and apply those genres to that style of game, what would it look like? So I found that interesting. I like the first game has this like egg for lives mechanic that I thought was pretty neat, but I ultimately found it a little frustrating, and I'm kind of surprised there's not a rewind mechanic in some of these games. It's not much fun to play games I like without rewind for NES, let alone games I don't know what to do. But I'm sure there is like a hardcore audience that doesn't want that and wants to experience this as if each of these are new games. And it sounds like I'm super negative. I just had other stuff I would prefer to play this week. Like I love the idea, but I'm surprised that first game didn't like, it wasn't like a easy, like, oh, this is really like, this is super fun, rather than
you would think the first game would be, one they would want to put out as like, this is a great game. And it's pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, it's Souls-like, and it's intended to be like super hard. You walk right immediately and a stone lands on you, kind of like a rock or enemy jumping out to you in the first level of Dark Souls. So it's like,
and just the
I don't think it
movement
was a good choice.
The movement's very slow, and it just it feels clunky. But again, the sheer creativity of like as you're going through these games, and there's so many different genres they're covering, and some of them are just like the weirdest concepts for games. Like not everything is just like a ripoff of some existing NES game. There's a lot of really cool original ones too, as far as I can tell. So I like that. I just I mean, it's going to be a tough one to like. I've seen review scores have been pretty high for this thing, but like I'm like, how it feels like any other retro game compilation I would buy, where I'm like, I play through a bunch, I'm like, that's cool, never playing it again. That's kind of what it feels like.
So have you guys read any reviews? Like, is there any sort of meta level of unlocking that happens that maybe you guys are missing that's giving like I'm looking at our favorite site Metacritic here, and it's got a 91 right now, which seems crazy for a bunch of NES super hard games.
So there is, from what I understand, some kind of meta element to it. I haven't spotted anything other than when you go into a game and you go to the pause menu, there's an option called terminal, and if you go into that, it kind of looks like you're editing a binary file or something, and you can put in codes. So I don't know what
that's a Game Genie kind of gag for cheats.
But that's what I'm wondering is maybe these games are really hard, but the thing is you're supposed to discover these codes, which will eventually make them easier for you. I don't know. Like that's the only thing I can think. I've heard that maybe there's other games you can unlock too, like more than 50. But I haven't really done any reading. I was hoping maybe I would start to discover things as I went. And, like I said, I fired up all 50 games and I haven't really seen anything so far.
Yeah, I was expecting more like 50 Nintendo games that you could like beat or complete with like modern design. And I don't mean I mean checkpoints and making games that are reasonable. Which would be totally doable with just putting them on an NES. So I really don't like the decision of the first game you play, because I want to play this one as much as I can and get really far in it, and it's frustrating. And then I finally tried a second game and it's a turn-based strategy. I'm like, I don't really like turn-based strategy. And then I think I was kind of done. And so part of that's on me for sure. It is super creative, and I'll get back to it, but if you throw this thing on PlayStation, I might get a little closer.
I must say, like on Metacritic 2, it only has 16 user ratings right now, which seems surprisingly low to me. And then another game that came out recently, Frostpunk 2, which I know is like more PC centric, so it's probably going to get more, but it has 60 user reviews, and it came out 2 days later.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass, I believe. Frostpunk.
But Frostpunk's a sequel that probably has people that love.
Maybe.
But even on Steam, there's only 800 reviews for it on Steam. And I will say, it's very reasonably priced, like $30 in Canada, $20 in the US, I think.
Okay.
So
and here's I'm looking at Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars Reforged, which I would consider this to be a very like niche title that not many people are going to pick up. It has 13 critical reviews. UFO 50 only had 16, and I thought more people would review it. And then there's 10 user scores versus the 16 or whatever. What did I say? 16? What did I say for UFO 50? 16 user scores. So, I mean, it's similar number of critical reviews and similar number of user reviews. And I would think that a lot more people, at least in like the 35 plus age range, would be looking at UFO 50 and grabbing it right away. And 16 user reviews doesn't say that to me.
I think like the rollout is a little slow. Like I don't think any major publication has reviewed it that I know of, and people, I'm not even sure people are aware of this game. Which, like, I want to go back to it because I'm just on Steam looking at clips from different games, and they look awesome. So, it's more like I just didn't. my initial experience with it wasn't great, but I want to go back to it.
I wouldn't say no one's looked. I mean, Eurogamer, Edge Magazine. I don't know how relevant that is. Silicon Era, New York Times,
IGN,
GameSpot, PC
what
Gamer.
GameSpot give it?
GameSpot gave it a 90.
Okay.
And Polygon did a review, but they don't give a score.
Like, I think it is a weird game to market, and obviously, like, it has some names behind it, like Derek, you did Spelunky, but I almost wonder, like, there's a part of me, because again, like I said, there's definitely some interesting original games in among the 50 that I was almost like, like maybe these should have just been standalone releases. Like, I wonder if they're kind of getting buried here and they're not going to get appreciated. Like, maybe they should have taken one game, one great original game, and kind of released it for free or something, and then said, hey, get 49 more in this package. Or I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know, maybe it just hasn't found the audience yet. And again, it is only on Steam as far as I know right now. But
yeah, so I just read the synopsis of one of the reviews, and he said that he spent 40 hours playing it and feels like he just scratched the surface, has not figured out what the terminal is all about, and is hoping people inevitably figure it out. So it does seem like this could be one of those long tail games where, like, once the whatever they've hidden has been discovered, if there is anything, it could kind of have long legs after that when people are like, oh, did you hear about UFO 50, what people found out? And then all of a sudden, more and more people are buying it because they want to see the cool stuff that's hidden in it or something.
Yeah, my initial thought is if after 40 hours you don't know how the terminal works, then it's like
something's wrong.
It's not a meta or game changing element like we were hypothesizing it might be.
Yes,
probably just more for Easter eggs and stuff. But all right, I think that's good enough for UFO 50. Huck, how about you? Anything you played?
I played a little more Space Marine 2, and I'm liking it, but I didn't get through the second mission yet, so I played a big chunk, but didn't finish the second mission, and I'm still liking it. I just haven't had that much time to game this week, so I don't really have much to add at this time. I don't even know if I played anything else other than that. So
did you struggle at the end of the first chapter where, like, there's that onslaught? I really had a tough time with that part of the game. I feel like I didn't know the mechanics well enough at that point.
No, I am playing on easy though.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
I was playing on whatever the default difficulty level was, and I died like 10 times there. And I think it rushes through the mechanics a little quickly in the beginning of the game, especially the like using the right trigger after you melee attack and
for the like execution gun
the whole
kill.
There's a few like subtle mechanics that I didn't fully grasp until I had my ass handed to me in that section a few times.
Yeah, I actually really like I can't remember if I got into it last week, but there's kind of a subtle thing where you do light attacks with the right trigger or the right whatever R1 RB button, and then if you hold it, it does a heavy attack, but depending on what stage of your like light attack combo you're in, it'll do a different move and a different knockback amount, I guess, depending on what the move is that you do. So it's kind of a good risk reward. Like if you do the heavy attack after 2 light attacks, it'll maybe only like push the guy in front of you. But if you do it after 3 light attacks, it's more of a area of effect pushback of people. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic in that regard where there's some risk reward and also some variety in the moves you do with the similar button press mechanics, I guess, the physical pressing.
Yeah, Kanutsugami had the same system.
Okay.
Kind of interesting that 2 games kind of had that. And
yeah, right at the same time, for sure.
Proximity. Yeah. I guess I'll just say I've been playing a bit of VR on my PlayStation VR 2, and I played a bit of Arizona Sunshine 2, and a bit of Star Wars: The Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, both kind of like free roaming. One's more of a shooter, although the Star Wars game has a lot of shooting too. And I don't have a lot to say yet other than I kind of like both, but I am so shocked at how bad the game design is in for like showing the player what they need to do. And like the checkpoint system in Arizona Sunshine, it said I hit a checkpoint and then it spawned me back to something before. And I was like, kept dying. It was a really awkward place to be stuck. Like just really bad, like fundamental game design, practical game design elements in almost every VR game I play. I know you have like this, it's a lot harder to design for because you don't know where someone's going to look necessarily or what they're focusing on with their eyes and their head, but there are ways to do it. Even like Star Wars, to get a marker, you have to like press these buttons on your wrist, and with the two sense controllers, like my controllers are hitting, like it's awkward. It's not a good system. And even reloading clips in Arizona Sunshine 2, I'm like hitting the controller against each other. Like this is not satisfying.
I've heard that's an issue with specifically with ports from like the Meta Quest to PSVR 2, because they're designed for the Quest controllers, which are a little bit smaller, and then the PSVR 2 ones, you get close together and they hit each other. Yeah. So
we'll fix it. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really annoying. Like how the friction I experience playing some of these games. There's quite a bit, and they're really not that complicated. Like there are solutions to these problems. And while we're on just quickly while I'm talking VR, Synth Riders, I know Beat Saber's the rhythm action game, exercise game. Synth Riders needs more love. I love Synth Riders. It's a ton of fun and a good alternative to Beat Saber if you are looking for another game like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a while since I played that, but that is a fun game that just feels good once you get into the flow of it.
All right, Sean, you said you're done, right, Huck? Okay.
So I'll just mention like, Astro Bot, played through like I rolled credits on Astro Bot, which the credits are awesome, but haven't done all the challenge stuff yet. I'm still kind of chipping away. We'll see how that goes. But I beat a role puzzling adventure. I was pretty far in it. I just kind of wanted to finish it off, and I liked it. I guess I thought it ended kind of weak. Like the last level, they add this new mechanic. Well, not really a new mechanic. Like throughout the game, I thought they did a pretty good job of like, again, this idea that you're sliding full rows or columns of tiles. They do a lot of different things with it, I thought. But then the thing they introduced in that last level was just not that fun. Like it was kind of frustrating, and I just wanted to finish it. But I did like it. And it's kind of like a decent little indie gem, I guess I would say. Just, lacked a bit of polish in some places. Even the writing, I was like hit and miss for me. Like I like that there is a story to this thing, but some of the writing's a little clunky for me. And then put a lot of time into Cat Quest 3, actually. Like I started Plucky Squire, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to power through this. And then after like an hour or two, I was like, I kind of feel like playing something else. And then I started playing Cat Quest 3, and I'm almost done it now. It like really hooked me. So that says something, I think, about that game.
Well, should we stick with the pirate theme then?
Let's do it.
So our buddy Dwayne, we were supposed to have a games night and no one could make it. So we said, well, we'll just play some multiplayer games online. And I said, Sea of Thieves is on sale on PlayStation. Do we want to try that again? And Dwayne bought it and downloaded it. So we had to play it. We were committed to trying, and I bought it deluxe edition and downloaded it. So we're trying it. I had it on Game Pass, but I want those trophies. This is how sick I am.
Of course.
but I hadn't played it in a while. I think I played it when like it was a version of early access almost, and found it quite cumbersome. Uh, the experience this time was a bit better. You know, introducing the mechanics, doing the tutorial. We got stuck on a ship and we couldn't. It puts you on a ship afterwards, after the tutorial, and we didn't realize you can only get 2 people on it. So we're like, why can't 3 of us play? What's going on? So not a lot of things are, and there was no feedback. We would try to join, and it's like, you can't, it doesn't say like this is a 2-person ship anywhere. It's like you have no idea of knowing. So lots of stuff like that where I feel like we didn't know about things we could do. Did you get that sense, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, like it's on like what, season 13, and there's still stuff like that that's like not explained to you. I don't understand how that's possible, but yeah, just
yeah. But the idea, I only played solo before. Playing with just like actual with a multiplayer crew, and I don't think they had like non-PvP like options previously, because I remember getting smoked and then getting eaten by a shark or something the first time I played it, and I'm like, okay, that's it. But having like safe seas and having a crew of 3, it was a little slow, especially the sailing part, but the communication aspect and looking for treasure was kind of fun. Like I actually liked it more than I thought I would in this current version of the game.
Yeah, I had a pretty good time with it. Like there's definitely a bit of what's the word? Like there was points where there's friction, but there was also like times where you're just waiting, you know, like being on the ship and just waiting to get to your location, dying and having to wait to go back through that door to come out from wherever you go.
I think the opposite of friction is like, it's not boredom. It's like a vacuum. There was vacuums where you couldn't even like, there's no physical forces affecting you.
Just nothing. But yeah, like aside from that, I definitely appreciated the fact that we didn't have people attacking our ship as soon as we set sail. Like that would have just turned me off immediately. And you know, maybe that's something we could work up to. I don't know, but just getting our bearings and starting to check out islands, and there was a bit of combat. It was pretty fun until our ship sunk. We lost everything.
Dwayne had to be captain, has to go get the boat. What a hero. Then doesn't even know there's a hole in it. Like Sean and I were repairing the boat all day in the other situation. Like, fine, you're driving. It's okay. We'll repair the boat. But, you know, this kind of emerging gameplay is what makes it fun to some degree. So I would return to the seas with you, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huck, if you want to get in there.
Yeah, Huck, you gotta
Game Pass. Only if you guys switch back to Game Pass.
No, I was on Xbox.
Oh, it's cross-platform. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What
getting that sorted out too.
Yeah, it took us a little while to figure that out, but
is it on PC? Like, could I play on PC?
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Interesting.
No, Phil. Anywhere, any player, anytime gets to experience.
Wow. I am liking Phil a lot these days, so I'm in. Game Green is growing all over me right now. So
okay,
you let me know the date and I will tell you I'm busy, but we can try.
That's what I thought. We saw you pop online last night. I'm like, I don't know if he's in.
Last night, was I even here? What was last night?
Maybe your
Saturday,
kid or maybe someone you're just watching TV on a PlayStation or something.
Oh yeah. We were watching Two Broke Girls
nice.
On Amazon Prime on our PlayStation. Yep.
Okay, so I gamed hard this week, no doubt about it. I thought I was gonna be able to say I platinumed Astro Bot before this episode. I'm on the last challenge level, which is quite hard. I've rolled credits, as Dwight would say, but I'm trying to do everything. So just hopefully tonight, I hope it's not like the last challenge level in Mario Wonder where I just want to break something with the invisible portion. But, you know, I really like this game. It might be in my running for game of the year. It's a weird thing where don't play it for extended periods of time. That's hard for me to digest. I'm like, I do a couple worlds or a world a day, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't like hook me into like I have to keep playing Astro Bot, which it has to say something about the game experience. Not necessarily bad, but I don't know. It's a little too easy, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, I could see that. No, not an issue for me.
Extremely charming, super polished, so many Easter eggs and little touches that I love, but a little too easy, I think. But I do love it.
I think the challenge levels are a good level of challenge for me, for sure. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get through them all, but
they're a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will mention I picked up Astro Bot from the library, and the kids have been playing it and they've been loving it, but I have not gotten to experience the joy yet, but I will try this week to get on that. Join the fun.
I've also been gaming hard on Vampire Survivors, but we know how I feel about that game. And lastly, I went back to the world of Horizon, and I started.
So you playing a little Zero Dawn,
a new game plus playthrough of Zero Dawn on ultra hard difficulty, and beat that. It wasn't that bad.
Whoa!
Plus, so went through the whole story again, and really enjoyed it. Although when you just do the story, it's not quite the same experience. Like, you're always fighting humans and corruptors and deathbringers, and it's just not as good. So, not holding that against the game. I was just burning through it to remind myself of the story before I go to Forbidden West. But before I do that, I've entered the Frozen Wilds for the first time, which is about 6 years too late, maybe more. And really enjoying it so far. The NPCs look amazing in the winter weather, like the costuming and the character models for the NPCs are really cool. And the new creatures in the Frozen Wilds are pretty challenging and look awesome. So gonna finish that off. And then at some point, gotta give Forbidden West a try after this. I have to. This is the only way to judge it, going straight from that to the other one. And I don't think it's going to go well. I'm telling you.
I've been thinking about revisiting as well.
Things about the initial playthrough, and I'm like, I'm very worried about climbing. Very worried. But we'll see what happens.
Once I got through the first couple hours of Forbidden West, I was really enjoying it. I need to get back to that. I think it feels better than Zero Dawn, personally. So you'll have to tell me what you think this time.
Well, I know that's wrong, but I'll clear the brain. I'll wipe my memory, and I'll go back and without any bias. I promise there will be no bias.
Okay.
The whole point of this is, I feel like Forbidden West was just building upon Zero Dawn, which I kind of forgot how to play, and I'm hoping this actually lubes this game properly, like eases the friction of that initial tutorial, because it's just like, oh, I'm back with an old friend and we're hanging out again with some new additions. So hopefully that'll be happening soon. All right. I don't know anything else. Do you guys have anything else that you played, Sean?
No.
Okay, that'll do it for this week's show. I was looking before, and I don't think a ton of major releases.
Zelda.
Whoa.
Hello. Hello.
Metacritic has to get better at labeling their upcoming games.
Didn't you get the email from Nintendo that your voucher had been confirmed, gone through, like I did?
All right, I apologize. There is a major game coming out this week. I can't remember.
26th, I think. Echoes of Wisdom.
The Echoes of Wisdom, the bed stacking simulator from Nintendo, which I'm sure we'll all try. I got a voucher to use, that's for sure.
I'm just looking here as well. I believe Meta Connect is this week. So we might have some
Meta Connect.
Zuckerberg sound drops.
Okay. Sounds good. How could I not see that Zelda was coming out? That's embarrassing. Okay. YouTube.com/Game Junk. If you want to view this show, maybe give us a like or subscribe. Just be nice. Leave a comment. We check the comments. Always good to hear what people are saying on there. Discord links are also.
Check out the brand new YouTube Shorts, man.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, there's some YouTube Shorts, some highlights from the junk you can tune into. Maybe that's the way to digest this content. We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye.